Hello viewers, you are welcome to this tutorial. This session is to give you a practical view of how error handling actually works. Okay, so we are only dealing with the syntax error and the logical errors in this session. So the runtime error will be handled in the next video. So we want to give much time to it because that is what we want to use Python's built-in error handling mechanisms to deal with it. Okay, so let's jump into what we have to do. I made mention of syntax errors. Okay, and syntax errors, which I said Python has default syntax of communication. Like Python has the print statement, that's the if statement, that's the for loop, it has the while loop, it has a list. Okay, so we want to know how the individual syntaxes within Python could generate an error for us. Now, if we don't use them as intended, they will generate an error. So let's begin with syntax errors. Okay, if I want to open up a list and I go like details equals, and I put names of people within, so I have Prince, I have John. Alright, so these are the names I have within my syntax. Okay, so what should happen is I want to print my details, and by default every list is indicated by an open and a close bracket. So if I should run this code, it works perfectly. But if I should delete one bracket, which is the closed one, and I execute the code, I'm told syntax error. Just look, syntax error, but the error is moved to the print statement. Now a little piece of advice. What Python actually does is, now this line of code, that is where the error actually is, but at the end of the line we've not really ended the line in a peaceful or graceful way, because it should begin with an open bracket and a closed bracket. Okay, so it is trying to say it can't identify this value because Python is assuming you are continuing with this line under it. Right, there is a way of continuing with the line where we know we have to use the backslash and every other syntax. So Python is reading all this line. It is done reading the line. Let me bring it down for you. Here is disturbing me at the top. Okay, so Python is done reading this line, and after reading this line is trying to check the next line of code whether it's a continuation of what we had at the top, and it checks the line and finds print. So it's indicating that print invalid syntax. Not that print is the invalid syntax, but it's invalid when it refers to the continuation of the list. Let's get it so well. So unless we end the list, then this becomes valid. Okay, so it doesn't mean there is a mistake with our print details. Alright, so Python goes line by line. So read the first line, knows that the line has not ended because list ends with a close bracket. It doesn't find any close bracket. It checks whether there is a close bracket down there. It doesn't still find any close bracket, and it says no, this is an error. Why not saying this is an error? Because it feels there is a continuation, because it has to end with a bracket. It has not ended with the bracket yet. It assumes it has the bracket down, it doesn't find it. It says no, this is a wrong syntax. So Python is trying to tell you this code should be a closed bracket. Okay, so that's one thing you should know. So anytime you're reading errors, don't think where the arrow is the exact point where you find the error. Sometimes it's just at the top of it, or sometimes it's just the same place as well. So what I want you to emphasize is this, the syntax error. Okay, so invalid syntax. Why invalid syntax? Because every list should end with a closed bracket. Okay, so hope we all get it. Every list to end with a closed bracket. So let me try to do what I said and see. Now if I bring the closed bracket here, it works perfectly the same. Okay, so that's why I said Python tried to come down to search for it, whether to see the close bracket. It didn't see it, all it saw was P, and it's saying P is wrong, but P is actually not wrong. So this is how you have to understand when it comes to reading errors. So this is what you have to know when it comes to reading errors. Okay, let me show you another kind of error. If we're dealing with a for loop, now every for loop has a default variable we have to declare, like current value. Okay, current value in range of 0, 10. Alright, and we print current value. Okay, so if I should run this code, it shows me values from 0 to 10. Okay, so it's all from 0 to 9. Alright, so 0 is inclusive, making 10. Alright, so if I have these details and I emit the current value, as I said earlier, every for loop has a default current value we have to declare, which will be a receiver for the individual values within the range. So even if I say print hello, okay, so it will be a syntax error. If I should run this code, they say syntax error. This is what I want you to emphasize on, syntax error. They say invalid syntax. Why invalid syntax? Why? Because Python in its for loop should have a default variable being declared as a receiving variable. And check it here again. they never said the the error is at the spacing. Okay, Python never said the error is at the spacing. It says the error is in the in. Why? As I said earlier with the list, after every for, after you type in the for syntax, you should make sure you type in the name of a variable. But Python says I'm not recognizing any variable, I'm only seeing in, and in is also a built-in for Python. Okay, in is something within Python, which is a syntax within Python that we use. So Python is not actually finding any variable. So Python cannot say you should bring a variable within. No. It is saying that this in should not be there, not because the in is wrong, but because after the for loop there should be an in, and there is no in, and we just have there should be a variable, and there is no variable, and all we have is the in. Okay, so be careful how you read the errors. So the syntax error, the arrow is pointed at the in, but the in is not a problem. It is trying to say let there be something after the for loop, and we are seeing an in, and that is not what we are expecting. Okay, so if we have a current value or value or any name of a variable you have, it works perfectly the same way. Okay, so these are syntax errors. Python is able to show you that this is a syntax error. This is what I'm expecting. The next one is the logical error. What is the logical error? Alright, so check this out. I have 23, or first value equals 23. I have second value equals this. Okay, and maybe I want to do an if statement, and I say if first value is less than second value, or is greater than second value, print hello. Okay, or maybe print let's say first value is greater than second value. Okay, so this is the if statement we have, which we want to execute. That if the first value is higher than the second value, then execute this code. So if first value is greater than second value, now first value is less than the second value. Alright, but that is not the point of the argument. What makes logical error so interesting is in the mind of the programmer, you actually wanted to write if first value is lesser than second value. So if I should run this code, I'm not having my output, but in the mind of the programmer, he knows first value is less, second value is higher, and in the comparison he doesn't want to do greater. There's a point you like to do greater where you have an else statement. So just imagine this, you have an else statement and it's a print, oh okay, I thought otherwise. Okay, so maybe you are thinking, so anytime you are thinking the first value is greater than the second value is not, you are thinking otherwise. So if you should run this code, and this error goes on so many lines of code, so you see okay I thought otherwise, and you'll be like, no, what is wrong with my code? Now your code is perfectly the same with respect to Python's understanding, but behind the scenes you the programmer made a mistake, and instead of saying less than, you said greater than. So always make sure you check for these individual errors, especially when you modify your code. It might easily escape you. So Python does not know what is in your head. You knew what you typed. So these are logical errors. They are hard to find because Python will not help us. We have to check for it ourselves. So these are the two kinds of errors we're handling. So if I want to correct it, then I use less than instead of greater than. Then I have, yes, exactly what I needed. So this is what we have to know. In the next tutorial, we're dealing with runtime errors, which is the main thing we have to be doing. This is an explanation for you to get concept of errors. So subscribe to the channel, leave any comments you have, hit the bell to receive more updates which I release, and moreover, like the videos if they're informative for you. So thank you for viewing. You're welcome.